Right, Paul, first of all, any injuries this week?
No, we came out of the game all good, and I think we got Sean Scannell doing a little bit of light jogging, so that progress that we envisaged has happened, albeit, like I say, still some way off. And Joel Grant has had 3 training sessions this week, one with the youth team, a couple with himself, so he's on the right track as well, so that's good news. John McAtee returned to training, obviously after his knee injury, so we're all good.
So him and Ryan Taylor all good for the weekend?
Yeah, I mean what we have got is some COVID in the camp, unfortunately, so that will impact the squad and maybe some selections for me. I think there's a inevitability about it in terms of looking at the wider picture. Unfortunately the headlines that we're all reading or seeing online in terms of the figures going through the roof. I think we've done everything we can to try and make sure it doesn't spread, and it's a different situation, thankfully, than what we encountered at the start of the season, or well, as we were hoping it was going to be the start of the season. So we've still got a squad for training, we've still got a squad for the game, but it has had an impact in terms of what I can select in terms of the team.
And how has that disrupted your planning and your training for this week?
Yeah, yesterday morning was difficult in terms of getting to grips with exactly where we were at, and then obviously some tests thereafter. But it's certainly not an excuse or anything tomorrow. So whatever happens, we hope it obviously goes extremely well and we have another good weekend. But if it doesn't, it won't be through that. It's just had to change a couple of things for us. But we're still very much looking forward to the game, playing in front of another very good crowd. Like I say, hopefully seeing some more smiling faces come round about 5 o'clock.
Yeah, and how is everyone in terms, obviously, that you say the people that have got COVID, are they all right in terms of the general health, albeit they've got positive tests?
I mean, I think the difficulty is we've had kind of an illness around which isn't COVID as well, and it's that not every illness, every time someone sneezes or coughs is not always COVID. So that's the difficulty in this time of year. You get more of that around. But as you say, the most important thing is that the people that have got it are looked after and that they come through this fine, which I'm sure they will. But in the short term, like I say, we just had to take some measures and prepare for maybe, like I said, maybe a couple of decisions changed, but still very much looking forward to the game.
Yeah, and it's a hot topic at the minute in terms of player vaccination. Obviously, every player's entitled to the choice, but
yeah. Has
your message as a club very much been, if players want to get vaccinated, to encourage that?
Yes, but very much if they want to.
Yeah.
I'm certainly double vaccinated. I know a lot of the staff and players are, but there's no getting away from it. Again, not going to name names or anything, but some players aren't overly keen on doing that or against it, and I think, let's be honest, we've all, again, I think read nationally, internationally, of much higher profile players, people that are making their own selections, and it doesn't sit maybe with certainly people who feel you should have the jab. So there'll be no pressure put on. I think all I have explained to the players is the consequences that might happen, and I don't mean consequence as in you won't be picked, as in just you may not be available for selection, and if again down the line things change and you were forced to have it to carry out certain parts of your life, would you have it then? Because ultimately for me, your job's a major part of your life, and as long as it's in their minds for the right reasons that they're against it, then there's no issues on our side.
Yeah, and you just touched on Joel Grant being having 2 first team training sessions.
Yeah.
Where do you see his sort of progression in the way that he can ramp up and then maybe be back available for you potentially for selection in a matchday squad?
I think certainly in the next week we would like to try and make sure he's involved in every training session with us. We would, I think we've got to be careful of not pushing him and breaking him again. We looking at kind of how we're trying to get him back, his age, his injury history. I think we have to take these things into consideration. So as much as it would be nice to say he's back and he's up to speed, the reality is, normally we would introduce games into that part of the programme. Now we have got some reserve games to schedule, but at the same time, the chances are at some point he'll be thrown into a match day squad. But I wouldn't really probably envisage that for a couple of weeks yet.
Yeah, so we're looking probably more, maybe not County a push, but more FA Cup. First round, sorry.
Maybe. I mean, that potentially with the 7 subs as well, that could be a possibility. But obviously there's probably 8-10 training sessions there to ensure he gets through, and to see how how he's looking is for me to decide, I guess, but how he's feeling as well. I mean, even this week you can see the quality, there's no doubt about that. However, it's tighter areas, it's not having to cover as much distance, and I'm not saying Joel won't be willing to try to do that. I think at the minute that would be, he wouldn't be able to, certainly not for a length of time. So that's where he's got to get the fitness in. But I think, like I said, the players can see when they're passing the ball, they often get it back, or we keep possession because he's a good footballer.
Yeah, how pleased are you to be back at home as well after what feels like I'm sure a little while, 3 weeks?
Yeah, it is. I must admit, it's that was, I don't know if you were going to ask me later, but that was, I guess, a disappointment with the FA Cup draw, being away from home, albeit not as or surroundings that I'm more familiar with. So it's not as much of the unknown. But I think the atmosphere that we've had at Blundell Park, the away games as well with the support, but certainly in front of your home ground in Cleethorpes, I want to say in Grimsby, they've been fantastic, and obviously results have gone extremely well there. So we're looking to try and extend that. There's certainly no guarantees. Yeovil aren't going to come to Blundell Park and roll over. They'll be buoyed by a win midweek, albeit on penalties against the local rivals. So we've got to bring our best game to it tomorrow afternoon, and hopefully we can get the same outcome.
Yeah, you've got a 100% record so far in the league at home. Gate looking at about 7,000 tomorrow as well. Must be really encouraging for you, obviously, to go and continue that fine run.
Yeah, and look, I think the players, the way that they've performed, they kind of, I guess, almost earned that right to play in front of that sort of crowd. But at the same time, I think it's just an indication of the feeling around the place, around the football club, the area, right from day one, really. Success always helps bring a few more that are maybe on the fence of whether to pay the money to come and watch, or do something else on a Saturday afternoon or Tuesday night, whenever it may be. But at the minute, it's the players have delivered to make it worthwhile, giving up money and time to support the club.
What have you made of Yeovil's start to the season, 14th in the table?
Yeah, I think they're a couple of games behind, in fairness, so that could quite easily be improved upon. A bit mixed, I think that's probably what Darren would say. And I think he's talked about missing players, which everyone has to go through that at some point, but I think he's missed some of his experienced players. I'm sure he would have probably preferred not to have played extra time the other night, but at the same time, like I said, at least they would come out the right side of that in the end, which winning a game, no matter how it is, will give them some confidence. Got Quigley up front, who's obviously started scoring goals, and I think he's been happy. They've been kind of maybe, as the game gets closer, you start paying more attention and looking at interviews, footage, and I think that his performances have been a little bit up and down even within a game. So we certainly prepare for the best Yeovil. At the same time, I think we want to perform, that we give Yeovil something to think about and hopefully maybe worry about.